Hey, another week of the Johnny and Gene Show, and I have a special guest with us today that I think everybody's going to enjoy this week, and this is my co-host, Gene.
What's going on?
And this is Michael Cannell, and this is his newest book. If everybody is a must-read, and if you're in the mob genre, and if you enjoy Murder, Inc., this is the book to definitely get and take a look at. You're going to enjoy it. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
And so you've written several books before this.
I have it. This is my fourth book. Yeah, my previous book was called Incendiary, and it was about the first case of criminal profiling, the first time that the police went to a psychiatrist to solve a crime. That was a serial bomber in the 1950s.
Wow.
They couldn't catch him. In desperation, they went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist was just about as crazy as the bomber was, but he was brilliant. And he just wrote out a list of the bomber's traits, and they turned out to be just completely accurate.
Wow. What made you go into that to even go into that genre to write that book specifically? Like, what made you?
You know, this is sort of maybe more background than you want to hear, but the book before that was about two Ferrari drivers, two men who were on the Ferrari race team. And I was researching that book, and I was reading a lot of newspapers from the 1950s. And I was actually reading an English-speaking Argentinian newspaper about a race in Argentina. And I just saw a headline about that bomber, the serial bomber, and I just had a feeling about it. And I started to read about it, and, you know, boom, I just could tell it could be a book, or it read like a Netflix series.
Wow.
And the same thing with this book, A Brotherhood Betrayed. I started to read a little bit about it, about the guy who was the head of Murder Incorporated, and how he became an informant, and then he went out the window of his hotel room and died just when he was about to start testifying in court against the big bosses.
Oh, I thought he was thrown out of a police station. It was a hotel.
It was a hotel.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was
a
they
hotel.
actually found him
They
on, I
believe
think,
that-
one of the landings on the way down, right? Not
Yeah,
to
there
the
was
ground.
like a kitchen
Yeah,
annex.
yeah,
They believe the
outside
cops
his
killed
window.
him, I think, right?
Yeah,
They
that's
believe the cops killed him.
Abe Rillis.
Abe
Yeah.
Rellas, yeah, his nickname was Kid Twist.
Right.
And he was being kept up there and with some other informants in the Half Moon Hotel in Coney Island. And his wife came to see him the night before he was supposed to testify in the trial of Lepke Buchalter. And by her account, they had sex. Then she asked him for a divorce. They had a big fight. She left. The next morning, he went out the window. Of course, the police explanation was that he was trying to escape.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many people really believe he was trying to escape.
No, I mean,
I don't believe he's trying to escape.
Obviously, in those days with Albert Anastasia and him being a prolific killer for them, it's most likely what he did for a living happened exactly what his justice back was. They killed him. And, for some of the knowledge, I know you guys talked off camera that his uncle was Fat Andy Ruggiano, who was actually straightened out and made by Murder, Inc., by Albert Anastasia and the crew. So we're pretty familiar with the book. And obviously I actually just got this the other day, and I read probably about a half of it. And I love your writing style.
Hey, I appreciate it.
And I know that one time weren't you the editor for New York Times?
I was an editor at the Times, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent my whole life working at newspapers. And I never wrote a novel or anything like that. I'm just a newspaper guy. But somehow now I'm writing books.
So true crime caught your eye. Like, that's what...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't set out in life to be a true crime writer, but these stories to me are just incredible. I mean, you guys are authors. You know what it's like. I think to write a book, you should be obsessed with the story. And it's really easy to be obsessed when you have a story like the story of Abe Rellas.
Right.
Yeah, this is incredible, actually. The history behind Murder, Inc., him himself is incredible.
It's so crazy. They had a hotline where you would just call, right? And then they would go to the address and kill the guy. That's how it pretty much was, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was like
crazy.
Abe Rellas set himself up in a candy store, a 24-hour candy store in Brownsville. and the phone calls would come in, like you say.
And just go kill that guy at that address, right?
And it would be like Los Angeles or
Right.
Chicago or Miami, and they treated it like a business.
Yeah.
His guy, Pittsburgh Phil Strauss, would pack up a suitcase with a fresh change of clothes, like a businessman, but he would also have a gun or a knife or whatever in the suitcase.
Yeah.
And he would go, and the guys there in the mob there would meet him, and they would work it out, and then he would get back on the plane and come home. Often he didn't even know the name of the guy who was his victim, and then until he read the newspaper the next day.
Wow.
Well, you're from Long Island, aren't you?
Do I sound like I'm from Long Island?
Not originally.
I'm from New York. I
Yeah.
grew up in New York. People always say, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I'm curious about. My wife is from West Virginia, so I think,
there we go.
I
You
think
see, it's her
maybe-
fault.
I think maybe I have a little West Virginia accent. 'cause
Oh,
that-
you're from New York? You're
that's-
from Long Island?
Yeah. Well, my parents live on Long Island. My
Okay.
mother grew up on Long Island, but I grew up in the city.
Yeah, that's right. We were talking about because I had the apartment in Manhattan also.
Yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the city's really not the city right now. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, right?
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
But Gotti Senior, I don't know if you have knowledge of this, was also from Brownsville, and I do a lot of talks in Brownsville. So Brownsville has the reputation, obviously, of the mob and what went on. And again, the man behind the rise and fall of Murder Inc. is really a great read. And I'm an avid reader, so when I like something, I start. I read this in 2 days, I guess, halfway through, and I try to skim around too, knowing that you were going to come on. But some people who really love this subject and genre, this is something that is really interesting because of the circumstances behind it.
Yeah.
And are you going to do anything after this one? Are you going to go?
I'm actually working on something else mob related, and I would like to talk to you guys about that another time. I haven't signed the contract for it yet, so I probably shouldn't talk about it.
Right.
But I think it might be right in your.
What is it based on? Like mob?
It's more like the mob in the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
So I think you're going to know some of these characters.
I'm sure. New York?
So New York, yeah. Brooklyn.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Do you have Maione in that book at all? Happy Maione? Is he in your
yeah, he's in there.
That's my cousin's uncle.
Is that how you pronounce his name? Because I worked on this whole book, and I always thought it was Mayon.
My cousin, that's his mother's uncle.
Really? No kidding?
Yeah, and that's actually
Really?
that's actually how Fat Andy got in with them. Through Maione.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably know the story about how
He was the last guy to be killed by New York State, I believe.
that
An
may-
execution. One of the last guys to be killed in execution in New York.
one of the last.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think Lepke Buchalter came after him.
Well, I know that
And then-
the electric chair was going. It's Sing Sing. One of them had it, the Max Securities, and I know one of them were the last guys to be
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
by the state of New York for
Right.
electric chair.
Yeah. So so you may know the story, but Abe Relez was trying to work his way up in Brownsville, in Brooklyn, and he was trying to knock off the Shapiro brothers, take their place, three brothers who were sort of the top dogs. And he didn't think he could do it on his own, so he recruited Happy, say the last name again?
Maione.
Mayone. I would have called it Mayone. Okay. So then they teamed up, and that's really how Abe Relez started to make his name, was with Happy's help.
Right.
He was able to overthrow the Shapiro brothers.
Wow.
Have you gone down to Vegas at all?
No.
As far as, did we discuss that? I think that we did. I mean, this is something that would be a perfect fit
You mean for the Mob Museum?
Yes, 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Mob Museum,
Yeah.
we would love this.
I haven't been in touch with them. I looked at their website. I mean, they have a really robust, they got a lot of good stuff on that website.
Yeah, I'll tell you the truth. When I did the talk, it's got to be about 3 or 4 years ago now. But when I was out there did the talk, I was really surprised how well done that museum is. It's 3 floors that is really impeccable.
Yeah.
And they run it, really incredibly well. And it's something that you would fit perfect with this genre and this book and your knowledge of it, where you need to definitely get in touch with them. And,
Yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, I will. It's a funny time because maybe in the past, somebody like one of the three of us might give a talk there, but with COVID, it's hard to know what's possible. But I'll definitely, at your suggestion, I'll definitely.
yeah, I'll give you some contacts.
Yeah.
And, Jonathan that runs it, Jeff, and some of the guys, really knowledgeable and good guys, and they really
Good,
run
yeah.
a good ship there. So,
I'm glad to know about it.
yeah.
How long did it take you to write that book?
I worked on it for about 2.5 years,
Wow.
and I could have spent more time on it. All the reviews seem to say like, "Oh, this guy researched this subject to death," but I felt like I was just getting started. I would like to have done more research. I didn't speak to any of the families. I just didn't really have time to do that, and I didn't know how productive it would be, because if I spoke to the families, I would be speaking to the grandchildren
Right.
of the players in the book. So I felt like at that point I probably knew more about the story than they would have.
Right.
So I read a lot of FBI files, and a lot of newspaper articles. I mean, a lot of local neighborhood newspaper articles, which amazingly you can get online now. When I wrote my other books, I would have to go off to the library and, try and find these newspapers.
Really? So you can get into the archives on all these articles?
I'll give you the name of a place where you can look up pretty much any newspaper article. It's a subscription service. You have to join it, but
Okay.
it's all there.
Oh, I'd like to get on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll give you the name.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great to know, actually. So where you heading after this now? Are you trying to develop this into any kind of TV series, a movie, or is it just, are you going to stop at this with the book?
Well, I would love to do that, of course. I don't really, I have an agent in Hollywood, and I'm actually talking to some people, a established filmmaker later this week about it. My other books had some interest in Hollywood, and so I know a little bit about how it works, but I'm not an expert by any means. So, I do think it's a really cinematic story.
That's
I think
why
it's
I
pretty,
asked. It is
yeah, it's
cinematic.
pretty easy to picture it as like a
Yes.
Netflix series, right?
Right.
Yeah, and Fat Andy
So-
Ruggiano's son, Anthony's still around, that has a lot of knowledge about
Oh, really?
Yeah,
this.
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did
Yeah.
one of the shows with us. He was a member of
Yeah,
the
okay.
Gambino family also.
Yeah.
So it is cinematic, and this is an incredible. I mean, everybody still talks about Murder Inc. forever.
Yeah.
Abe, Morellis, anybody that's been around the mob genre knows.
I think people know that name, Murder Inc., and sometimes I think maybe they know it from the Bruce Springsteen song. He had
yeah?
a song called
Yeah,
Murder Inc. But I think people know the name, but they may not necessarily know where it came from.
Well, a lot of people in this, especially in this area, New York, know Albert Anastasia and the history behind it. Anybody that's, again, is a mob,
Yeah.
anybody that loves this genre, and they know the background between Albert and his brother. His brother was one of the union heads.
Right.
And a lot of people don't talk about the brother. The brother was actually a pretty tough guy, too. And you don't hear a lot of people talking about
Yeah.
Albert's brother. But this area of Albert Anastasia I think, is something that is a TV series. They just did the movie, the series. Was it Broadway? What was that? They just had it on, I think it was HBO series.
Bronx Tale, I think, right? One of the
No, the
movies they did.
Boardwalk I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Boardwalk Empire.
Boardwalk
Oh, they did it on.
Empire.
I
Yeah.
thought they did one.
Was
of
that
the movies,
HBO?
too.
Where was that?
Well, I think it might have been HBO, yeah.
And I think you could do a lot better job with this than that.
Well, I watched a little bit of Boardwalk Empire because I was in the middle of writing this book, and I was just curious about it. And then no disrespect to the people who worked on that, but it
Nah,
didn't seem like
yeah.
it rang true.
No.
Nah, I wasn't good.
That's why I said this would
One of
be.
the worst mob shows ever made.
Yeah,
probably.
and one of my thoughts was the real guys were a lot tougher than
Yeah,
the guys in that
Ruthless.
show, right?
Very,
Yeah.
way different. But the show was just it wasn't good. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was a bad mafia show.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the worst, to be honest with you. Nobody.
Well,
knew.
yeah, I didn't watch it
Yeah.
because of that reason. I said,
Yeah.
I said they did the boardwalk, but if they're looking for something in that realm, in that genre, this would be
This would
something
be
that,
good, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I hope so. What's the expression? From your lips to God's
Yeah,
ears.
yeah.
So, Brooklyn in the 1930s. I mean, it doesn't get much more atmospheric than that, right?
Right.
I mean, Brownsville, East New York in the 1930s. I mean,
40s,
it's-
50s, 60s,
and
still
40 yeah,
70s,
right, yeah.
all up until the
Yeah,
80s, really. That's
right
when it
up to
changed.
Saturday
Yeah.
Night Fever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the characters are just like, I felt like every time I read something about that world, I came upon another just unbelievable character, with an amazing story, just one after another.
Yeah. What publishing house did you?
This is Saint Martin's.
Oh, it is St. Martin's. Okay.
Is the publishing house, and Minotaur is what they call the imprint.
Okay.
And so they do a lot of true crime, and so it's a good fit for me there. And I think they do a really good job.
I know some of the people at St. Martin's, and one of the financial officers, very nice guy, and they run a good, their company and publishing house is really first rate too. So
First rate, they seem like they are. They used to be in the Flatiron building, so it was kind of fun to go in the Flatiron building.
Right.
I was always curious what that place was like on the inside.
Yeah. So how did you took 2.5 years for this book and for your other novels that you wrote? There's 4, right? You wrote in total.
This is the fourth. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really remember. Like 2+ years. Yeah. I mean, I'm all about just doing a massive amount of research because I want to know everything, and I don't use everything, right? I don't want to write an encyclopedia,
Right.
but I want to know everything.
Yeah.
And I do think that if you know everything, even if you don't show it, even if you don't, I don't want it to be like I'm doing my homework and I'm showing everybody that I've done my homework. But I think it helps to know everything. I think the reader can tell if you know what you're talking about. I think it just comes through somehow.
Well, you did 300 and
It's like 300 something pages. Yeah.
Which isn't bad. It's right on the mark of where a lot of times if it's too short, people want more. If it's too long,
Yeah.
they don't want to put the
They
time
keep
into
telling
reading.
300 pages is good. Everyone
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
right? 300,
3.25.
3.25, something like that. That's
Yeah.
what they
any
told me.
any
They said,
longer than that, it starts to seem pretty unwieldy, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well,
They told for mine they wanted it to be like 3.25, like you
Yeah.
said. Hmm.
Did you finish?
Oh yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
It's just being a little. It's just getting cleaned up a little
Yeah.
bit.
That's a good feeling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm on the same track as you, so I'm on number 4.
You're on number 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
number 4, and I just finished that, and somebody's looking at it for me now. So
I need to get both of your books.
oh yeah, mine will be
I
out
need-
probably January, February. That's what
Yeah.
we're shooting for.
Good.
do you follow the genre itself now with the mob stuff, or does it interest you, or just on what the topics are that you're trying to write on?
Well, I mean, I'm not one of those people that like reads these books that come out one after another. I read that classic Five Families
Right.
by Selwyn Rabb. Do you know that book?
Yeah, I do.
And
Is that the huge one? Isn't it huge?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another huge one is the one by Gay Talese called Honor Thy Father.
Well,
Do you know that one?
I know it, but I never read it.
It's an old one. I think he wrote that maybe he wrote it in the 70s.
I just read Tony DiStefano's book, Gotti's Boys. I don't know if you know him. I think you would know him, right, or know of him.
Yeah, I do
From
know
what,
the name. Yeah.
and I thought he did a pretty good job with that. And and obviously I know a lot about that particular group of guys. So,
Yeah.
I thought he did a pretty good job with that too. So I don't read that many of them either, and being in the life of this, but unless it interests me and piques me. And this one piqued me. So
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, for you, when you read them, it's different because both of you maybe, background that I wouldn't know if I was
Right.
if I was reading it.
right.
So it's probably a different experience for you, right?
Well, yeah, it's a little different experience, but when you write with knowledge like you did on this book, and I knew you wrote with knowledge, that's why I asked you how long it took, or he asked you, because of the way you wrote. So you knew you were very knowledgeable the way you wrote it. Sometimes you get people that are writing books, they do a decent job, but I don't think they do enough studying of the facts, and obviously you did. So which made this book a little more unique for somebody to read it who has interest in this subject. And people that don't know how to find it, you can go on my website, I put it up. You can go on my Facebook, I put it up. I put it on my Instagram. So it's johnalite.com on my website. It's John Alite officially on my Instagram, my Facebook, my name, John Alite. And you can reach him. Do you have Instagram or anything? Anybody can reach you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's Michael_Cannell. That's Cannell. And I have a website, which is, michaelcannell.com.
You can reach me on Instagram at GeneBoy666, and also we have make sure to subscribe to Patreon. We have a lot of exclusive footage that we're putting up there, so go check it out.
Anybody that wants a signed autographed copy of this book, is there a way they can get that from you?
Sure, just be in touch with me through Instagram, or you can find me on Twitter, or just my email is michaelcannell@mac.com. I'm happy to autograph. I'm happy to come to book clubs. I'm happy just to get an email and converse about some things, whatever's on your mind. So I'm available.
And everybody, it's a great read. I recommend it. And I think you did a great job on it. And if anybody else that's interested in his book with his signature, and if you can't reach him, you can reach out to me and I can help you get his book and his other books. So if anybody's interested in other books that he also authored, what are some of the names of the other books for the...
Incendiary was the book about the first case of criminal profiling. And The Limit is a book about two drivers on the Ferrari race team in the late 1950s and early 60s.
All right, thank you very much. I loved having you. You were a great guest, and I knew that would be. We had a couple conversations prior, and I wish you luck and the best to it. Anything we can do to help you with the book, let us know.
You guys are great, and I really appreciate being here.
I appreciate it again. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay.